In this screencast, we will finish our unit on nomenclature by looking at how do we name acids, as well as molecular or covalent compounds. Acids are ionic compounds that begin with the element hydrogen. Be aware that there are some molecular compounds that also begin with the element hydrogen, like water or H2O. The naming rules for acids can get pretty complicated, so what I'd like for you to do is please pause the video and copy down the names and formulas for the acids that are listed. You are responsible for knowing the name and formula for hydrochloric acid, hydrofluoric acid, hydrobromic acid, hydroiodic acid, nitric acid, acetic acid, carbonic acid, sulfuric acid, and phosphoric acid. Naming molecular compounds is very different from naming ionic compounds. In molecular compounds, we use prefixes. The prefixes are listed on the left side of your screen. Please pause the video and write down the prefix names for the 10 numbers listed: mono, di, tri, tetra, penta, hexa, hepta, octa, nona, and deca. Welcome back. We use these prefixes on elements to tell how many of that element there is in the compound, so you will use the prefix that corresponds with the subscript in the formula. The big rule here is that you do not use the prefix mono on the first element only. Every other prefix is used on the first element, and all 10 prefixes are used on the second element. Finally, all names of molecular compounds must end in IDE, so whatever element is listed as the second or the last element, make sure you change the ending to IDE. Let's take a look at how this works. Let's take a look at a few examples. CO is our first example. Notice that there are no subscripts in this compound, which means there is one carbon atom and one oxygen atom. We don't use the prefix mono on the first element, so this is going to be called carbon monoxide. Our second example is CO2. Again, here there is one carbon, and since we do not use the prefix mono on the first element, we just name it carbon. Our second element is oxygen, and there are 2 atoms. Our prefix for 2 is di, so this is carbon dioxide. For our third example, we have NH3. There's one nitrogen. We do not use the prefix mono on the first element, so the first part of the name is just nitrogen. There are 3 hydrogens. The prefix for 3 is tri, so the final part of the name is trihydride. And finally, we have PCl5. There's no subscript for the phosphorus, so the first part of the name is just phosphorus. The second element, chlorine, has a subscript of 5. The prefix for 5 is penta, so the final part of the name is pentachloride. Notice that each of these compounds' names end in IDE. Now you try. On the bottom of your notes, complete these 3 practice problems. Give me the name for N2O5 and NO, and then write the formula for dihydrogen monoxide. Submit your notes to Mrs. Benke.